Hey, this is Owen. If you're comfortable, leave your first name and state at the sound of the tiny truck backing up.
Hey Owen, this is Thomas from Virginia, longtime fan of the show, and I've called in a few times before. I saw your video that you recently posted on Greg Locke having a book burning, and I was just wondering, how do Jehovah's Witnesses feel about book burning because they have such an extreme opinion of apostates? I was just wondering, how does the organization treat apostate literature? Thanks. Love the show. Bye.
Yeah, appreciate the voicemail. Really interesting question. As a matter of fact, I pulled up an article on a website called jwfacts.com. This website is so incredibly robust. It has so much information here. It's ridiculous. And it's been up and running for like decades and decades. Guy that runs it, I think his name is like Paul Grundy or something. I don't even remember now. I've never talked to him before, but the work he does on this website is absolutely nuts. So I wanted to look through some of this because there's actually some literature in Watchtower's past that they want people to burn. They are big fans of burning books and literature. That's like their go-to solution for everything. Here's the problem. The organization changes so often. It changes their minds on everything. They call it new light. They're always getting new light from God. And they change their mind so much, it's pretty obvious to anybody who's watching that they're completely full of. So what they've done is they've told people to burn any literature before a certain date. Like, burn any old literature. Burn anything that came out before, like, 1980 or something. I don't know what the date is exactly that they chose, the cutoff. But they tell people to burn anything that they have that's older than a certain date. And by doing so, they don't have to specifically tell people, burn the 1947 Watchtowers from October or whatever that you have. Any 1947 Watchtowers that you have, just burn them. They don't have to say that. They just say, burn old literature, anything before 1980, pretty much. We will make it available to you if we feel that you need it. That's pretty much the approach that they've taken. I guess they probably don't want to specifically list the literature which they would consider to be apostate material, because they absolutely do consider a lot of their old Watchtowers and books to be apostate material now, because some of the in that makes it so blatantly obvious that they're full of. There is no way to avoid it once you actually read this stuff that they've put out, that they are completely full of it. Let me give you a good example. On this page, this is jwfacts.com. Here's an article that they wrote, one of their magazines, 1947. The Awake is from January 8th, page 27, 1947. The subheading on this article is, "Are you also excommunicated?" If you are one of the 138 million people in the world that were born and raised as Protestants, then you are already excommunicated by the Roman Catholic hierarchy. This means that you're looked upon with the blackest contempt by the Vatican, being cursed and damned with the devil and his angels. Says the Catholic Encyclopedia, quote, "With the foregoing exceptions, infidels, pagans, Mohammedans, and Jews, all who have been baptized are liable to excommunication, even those Protestants who have never belonged to the true church, since by their baptism they are really her subjects, though of course rebellious ones." Where then did this practice originate? The Encyclopedia Britannica says the papal excommunication is not without pagan influence, and its variations cannot be adequately explained unless account be taken of several non-Christian analogues of excommunication. The superstitious Greeks believed that when an excommunicated person died, the devil entered the body, and therefore, in order to prevent it, the relatives of the deceased cut his body in pieces and boiled them in wine. Wow. Even the Druids had a method of expelling those who lost faith in their religious superstitions. So basically, Jehovah's Witnesses in this 1947 Awake are condemning excommunication, and they know how absolutely ridiculous that makes them look. They know. And for that reason, they banned it. If you're caught with this specific Watchtower or this specific Awake in your house, or a copy of it or a printout of it or whatever, elders are going to have some tough questions for you. It is apostate material, and it is supposed to be burned. I'm sure they have a list of all of the old literature that they've written that is now considered apostate material, but they really don't publicize that list. I haven't found any specific list. It has to exist, right? It must. Because how would the elders know which articles are apostate material if they didn't have a list of some sort? But this is definitely on the list, and they definitely want you to burn it. And if you don't, you risk being disfellowshipped for owning it. So yes, to answer your question more directly, Jehovah's Witnesses absolutely do encourage people to burn literature.
Hi, this is Cassie from Missouri. I did not go through a cult myself, but I did suffer from abuse and noticed a lot of similarities between abuse and cults, and I wanted your thoughts on that. Bye.
Yeah, I appreciate the voicemail. There are a lot of similarities. In fact, somebody named Chris Shelton has a YouTube channel. He talks about cults also, and he pointed out at their most fundamental level, cults are essentially abusive relationships between the members and the leaders. That's basically what they are. And that's why you can find a lot of the same behaviors in cults that you find in abusive relationships, just one person with another person. That's why you find a lot of the same problems in families and things like that, because these issues are control methods. And ultimately, fundamentally, abusers want to control their victims. So yes, that is an apt observation. Essentially, they're the same thing on a grander scale.
Hello, Owen. I just have a question. Genetically modified skeptic talked about this some, but I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on alternative medicine? Do you think it's a good or bad thing? You might have spoken about it before, I don't know. But yeah, could you just let me know? I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, years and years ago, I did a video with Genetically Modified Skeptic. I mean, I'm talking like 4 years ago, I think. We did a video together about Young Living, or I did a video on Young Living and he was in it, or I don't remember how it worked out. But yeah, we've talked about alternative medicine. We've talked about essential oils and all of that stuff before. It's definitely destructive. Alternative medicine is just a way of pushing people in another direction when in reality, mainstream medicine is proven to be effective. Mainstream medicine goes through a rigorous testing process. We use double-blind trials and all kinds of different types of clinical trials to determine if something is effective or not. Alternative medicine has never been proven to be effective, and that's why it's alternative. Because nobody has ever successfully proven its real value. Alternative medicine is nothing but destructive because it leads people down a path that has no hope at the end, though they think it does. So in my opinion, alternative medicine is absolutely terrible. It should be heavily regulated. Here's a listener question from somebody named Mojo. My name is Mojahid, I believe is how it's pronounced. That's probably completely wrong. I apologize. You can call me Mojo. Yes, like the monkey from Powerpuff Girls. I like that show. Anyways, I was wondering if you could talk a bit about Muslim content, because I'm a Muslim and your page mainly has Christian content on it. As a Muslim deciding whether or not to leave, I'd like someone who talks about my religion. I'm a Muslim, mixed South African, and my grandmother has really been stuffing reading my Quran down my throat to the point where she banned me from entering her room even though she lives with me and my parents for the time being. Even though I know I'm not one of her most respectful grandchild toward her, my parents don't push me too much, but I don't know what to tell them. Even though I feel I don't want the religion, I also don't want to lose my family. And again, I know you don't do Muslim content, but I'd really like you to speak on it, even if it's just a mention. I'd also like to know how I can contact you better with questions. Sorry about the long message. This is really the best way. You can send me an email and it works just fine, obviously, because I got to this. Yeah, in my opinion, I think Islam is a destructive religion, just as destructive as Christianity in its own ways. It's just, I don't cover Islam very often, almost ever, because for one thing, I know almost nothing about it. And for another thing, it's really not affecting my life in any way here in the U.S. It's kind of outside of my political sphere, kind of outside of my sphere entirely. It just doesn't affect me. I feel like right now, Christianity is doing everything that it can to overtake the U.S., the political system in the U.S., And that has been my main focus for that reason. But I do appreciate you emailing me, and I hope that you can find your way out of that situation at some point. Because like I said, I do think Islam is just as destructive as Christianity. Not in the U.S. right now, because, you know, Christianity is the majority religion and has all of the political sway here right now. But Islam is very destructive to people's lives, and I hope you can find your way to independence so that you don't have to deal with that kind of thing anymore. And good luck. Thank you for emailing me. I appreciate that.